Awesome. I'm so inspired by the speech. Julie was amazing. Just so you guys know, we have copies, a few left, of The Power of Positive Leadership, which was the topic of her talk, written by John Gordon. And then Julie herself has a new book out. It's called Mirror, Mirror, 5 Reflections to Clear the Fog and Help You Shine. So if you would like to read either Julie's book or The Power of Positive Leadership, let Jen Maley know, and we will get you copies. Happy to do that, and then you can take care of it, you can read it, and hopefully it's amazing as it was for you, as it is for me. Love those books. So, very good. Let's go ahead and move forward. The last couple of bullet points that I wanted to go over for the reason for today, we are investing, in, of course, in you with this talk and with bringing Julie here. And I think improving our performance, what are we going to do? Like we talked about, the theme I think today is not just, hearing words and saying them, but doing something. And we've already started something here at Community Healthcare that I think is going to be a great way for us to move forward and get back to, sometimes I think we get data overload. We get, when we talk about the root and the fruit, it's so easy to look at that fruit. We have more data now than we've ever had. We have MIPS prints and RAF scores and all kinds of other data points, which are great, right? Those are the ways we measure what we're doing. But we have to remember the root. And when we talk about our patient care, the root is the person in front of us, right? And in primary care, as you guys, many of you know, much of the time, what we really are looking at is lifestyle and behavior change with our patients. And that's the hardest part. That's the one-on-one or the small group visit or the time that you really are spending with that patient to say, okay, how are we going to help you with your hypertension or your uncontrolled diabetes, or you've been in the hospital 4 times in the last year for heart failure, or your child has been in the emergency room in a depressive crisis, and what are we going to do differently? And so, when we thought about this, it was, again, just like last year, Amanda Dooley just kind of said, hey, I do this thing, and it fit perfectly with what we were doing in our mission. Earlier this year, Dr. Homer over at the Stowe office and Amy Mycusa were telling me, look, we're doing group visits and lifestyle medicine and diabetic group visits, and we've had some pretty amazing, ridiculous results. I says, tell me more. And they said, well, believe it or not, Dr. Homer's sister is a PhD health psychologist, Dr. Melinda Fayon. Unfortunately, she doesn't live in Ohio, which since I've met her, I've been really trying my hardest to make her move. But she has helped them build lifestyle medicine and group visits and really empowered the providers in the Stowe office to really get to the root of some of the problems that our chronically ill patients are having. And I said, wow, I need to know more about this. And so I've met with Dr. Fayon multiple times, and we've actually already started an initiative. What we want to do is really get back to equipping our providers, our care managers, our behavioral health, our MPs, our physicians, with more tools, more techniques, and more ways to help our patients chronically manage their illnesses themselves, giving them the power to do it. And so, again, we want to treat the root causes of chronic disease. As we all know, probably 80%, maybe more, of chronic disease has modifiable factors, something that we can change to help someone. And we really do have a chronic disease epidemic in our country. The data off the top of my head is unbelievable for how many diabetics we will have in the next 5 to 10 years. It's millions more than there currently are. And again, underlying health behavior choices and lifestyle behaviors are huge. In the medical literature, look, we have tons of care pathways and evidence-based guidelines, and we try our best to follow those, and those are often medication, statin use, metformin, diuretics, see a cardiologist, see the endocrinologist, do whatever you have to do for all these things, but we're really not getting back down to the root of it. And the medical literature really is giving us a call to action to say that we need to get better at managing lifestyle and our patients' behavior. To truly be effective, we have to commit to utilizing evidence-based practices. And the science and the practice of behavioral medicine is an amazing way for us to move forward. So I'd like to I'm really excited for this because Dr. Feon is fantastic. She is extremely qualified and sometimes I think overqualified to be doing this with us. She's fantastic. I'd like to bring her up here and tell us a little bit more about what she's going to be doing for us. Dr. Feon is, again, a health psychologist who helps people with health challenges and medical rehabilitation. But in addition to patient care, she has experience developing group wellness and health promotion programs, and she is officially joining our family as a behavioral health consultant for behavioral medicine. She also serves as an assistant clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the Yale School of Medicine at Yale University. I'm really excited because I think her helping us get back to basics, to the root of our patients' problems, to improve chronic disease management and lifestyle treatment is exactly where we need to go, and it's totally consistent with our mission and vision. And so we want to be at the forefront. I think that's the culture that Dr. Eisen has set for 37 years. We are the ones that are always leading the way in some of these initiatives and in many things. And so I would love to hear from Dr. Feon for a minute to let you guys know how we're going to implement this and some of the things that she's going to be talking about with our providers in the next few months. So Dr. Feon, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Steineck. It's such a pleasure to be here back in my home state. I grew up on the other side of the state, on the western side of Ohio, in a very, very small German village. And my mother was a nurse administration, in nurse administration, and my sister Michelle and I sat around the dinner table many, many nights, right? Hearing all of the stories from the hospital. And as a former hospital-based psychologist for a decade, not long ago, it's such a pleasure to be in a room full of like-minded hearts and minds, to have a talk in healthcare, focus on love and the psychological pieces is really inspiring. You know, one of the most important questions we have right now, right, in medicine is how can we truly have the folks that we serve become active participants, right, in their own health? How do we help empower them to take charge in their health? And I know that this is one of the greatest challenges that we have. And thankfully, we also know that many of our answers, in fact, some would argue the answer to this is to bridge the gap finally between psychology, which is really the science of how we help people change, and medicine. Unfortunately, in our respective fields, right, we have this silo effect. And so we've known for decades some of the things that we need to do to help people do that, right? To become active, to really be motivated, to take care, and to have the skills to do that. But we have this chasm, right? And we need to bridge that gap. So I'm beyond thrilled to be here and to play a role in this. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what lifestyle medicine is. So we, as Dr. Steineck said, we are developing a movement where we'd like to get back to root causes. Julie, you were singing my tune. How do we get back to root causes? So we're going to be looking at, in terms of an overarching behavioral medicine, psychology-informed piece to give you tools that you can use, right, in the ways that you're maybe communicating with your patients, in the ways you're communicating with your team, how to inspire your patient to bring their best self, right, to their own health and well-being. So we decided to start with lifestyle medicine. So as Dr. Steineck said, lifestyle medicine is actually an evidence-based specialty within medicine. I'm curious, how many of you have heard of the specialty lifestyle medicine, or the term? Wow, right. Not as many as we would hope, and we're going to change that, right? Because lifestyle medicine is the evidence-based approach where we can systematically help our patients to address all the different contributing factors to their health. So let's say we start with the green here. These are called the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. The first being a focus on whole, real, not our ultra-processed foods, real nutrition, right? How do we feed and nourish our bodies? And then we have movement, how to help our patients, right? Incorporate greater movement and physical activity. How to manage stress, which we're going to talk just a little bit about today, and we're going to do a nice experiential on that. How do we focus on building positive relationships, right? Just as Julie was talking about, it's everything, right? That power in the room of the provider with the patient. Just a few simple words, right? We all know this can make or break the encounter. We're also going to talk about the power of sleep medicine for our patients, and then looking at avoiding risky substances. Those are the 6 pillars in the practice of lifestyle medicine. One of the things that's really neat about the founders of lifestyle medicine, and I'm going to be here actually for the provider meeting on the 17th, and we're going to go into all of this in great detail about how to get started. But one of the things that's really neat about this modality in medicine is the recognition that information alone, right? I think we all know and relate to this, right? Information alone is not enough. So when we say to your patient, gosh, I know that we need to help you eat better and maybe move more, and then send them on their way in the confines of the time constraints in the visit. We know that's not enough, right? And so in lifestyle medicine, they've brought in the power of psychology and the science of behavioral medicine to be able to help us help the patient learn not just what, but okay, how do I do that? Okay, so Dr. Steineck is saying I need to keep an eyeball on my weight. But how do I do that, right? Or how do I incorporate better nutrition? And that's the psychology, right? So we want to facilitate patients to increase their engagement and motivation that they already have. We don't necessarily need to give it to them, but as Julie said, if we combine love with the expectation, and I'm here with you, I'm here for you, and I'm going to help you tap into your own motivation, which is already there, our outcomes get so much better. Okay, so speaking of outcomes, we have, again, multi-decade research showing that there's overwhelming evidence that positive lifestyle changes result in massive improvements, right, in our physical outcomes. There was actually a study just published, it was a case study in June of this year that showed the feasibility of diabetes reversal from lifestyle medicine practices. We also know, and again, we're going to be talking more about this at the provider meeting, that when practitioners use the science in their own practice of lifestyle medicine, it helps significantly reduce burnout among providers. So one of the things that we're going to do is this experiential, where, and back to Julie's comment about it's so hard to give if our cup is dry, right? And we know the demands of healthcare. Having spent the last 25 years working with chronic medical patients, I understand and we all know the demands of it. And if we're not careful, right, it's so easy to get burnt out. So we're going to talk more about this at the provider meeting, but I'd like us to be able to engage in something that can be very helpful to fill our cup and is one of the key pieces we know that can help our patients do the same. Because if there's anything that I know that's probably one of the most powerful things is how do we change? And it almost always boils down to awareness. Do we have awareness of our state? Because behavior is the root cause. Most patients would say, right, I know what to do, but gosh darn it, despite my best intentions, I just can't seem to do it. And so we need to bring awareness to this. So what we're going to do is this short experiential here of self-care. So I'd like you to, if you will, find yourself a comfortable position. If you're facing me, if you could just kindly find whether you need to square yourself off at your table. And it's okay if you have your legs crossed. We're going to do a mini relaxation here that builds awareness and self-care. But if you're able to have your feet flat on the floor, that would be preferable. So we know that the capacity to change is dependent on our mind-body state. And this is an acronym ABC-P that I use with patients. A is for awareness. I'm going to slow down and tune in. B is for I'm going to self-regulate my physiology, my breathing. And C is wise choice. P stands for reconnect with my purpose. Because, right, we want to do just that, whether we're the patient or the provider. How can I connect to my purpose in this moment? But when we're stressed, right, we all know it's very challenging to do that. So here we have an opportunity just to get a taste of what this is like, and many of you probably have had this type of experience. Okay, so I'd like you to now, if you feel comfortable, you can allow your eyes, just have a soft gaze down, or if you feel comfortable, to close them completely. I'd like you to just bring a kind awareness now inward as we create space and pause to just simply notice our current state. Without any judgment or evaluation, just simply noticing your inner landscape. Am I in a state of ease or dis-ease? And allowing your breath to begin to gently slow down its pace. Taking nice, soft, slower breaths. Your jaw can release. And with each exhale, like a rag doll, just let go. completely release with each out breath. If the mind wanders, and it will, it's okay. Just returning to the exhale, that ragdoll, completely letting go of all that you hold. And from this place, you can connect with the ways, the choices that are meaningful to you. From a place of equanimity, of spaciousness. Feeling both grounded, perhaps, and yet open, spacious. And from this place, connecting to your highest good, your purpose, your why. Maybe that's to treat each person I see with great care and kindness. And to bring my best self to each person I meet. And from here, imagining yourself in each of your moments as we return in just a moment back to the room, giving yourself any reflections or intentions. And whenever you're ready, you can allow your eyes to open and focus back in the room. I'm wondering if, real quick, anyone would be willing to share that experience. Yes, thank you. Uh-huh. Peaceful. Uh-huh. Well, actually, it's not surprising, right? Because, and we'll talk more about this in the provider meeting, but the body and the mind are not separate, right? So when we have a thought, an experience, we feel it in the body, right? And I love that you said at peace, right? Because how can we bring the mission to our patients, to ourselves, if we're not in that state. It's so crucial, right? So we can talk more about how to incorporate this, fill our cup, right? Releasing the tension, filling up our cup. And when we know how to do that for ourselves, it's a lot easier to help our patients be able to figure out how to do that in their lives, because, as we said, their habits, their health behaviors, their health choices are an absolute effect of that state. When we're stressed, right, it changes the choices that we make. So I know we're going to wrap up here. Dr. Steineck is going to come and talk about the steering committee.
Yes. So there's been a committee of people that are working on this initiative. And so if your name is up here and you've been on the committee, please stand up real quick. Just want to thank you. Cheyenne, Renee, Greg, Gina, Bonnie, Kristen, Angela, Amy, Dr. Cunningham, Dr. George, Dr. Homer, Dr. Klatt. They meet on teams on Fridays, and it's going to be really cool to see the techniques and some of the things they're going to be able to teach us to help us get better at engaging our patients. So thank you to the committee. Very much appreciate that. The last thing is there is a survey that went out just to help Dr. Fayon and the committee figure out what kind of needs we have for our patients with this kind of lifestyle medicine and health psychology type of a background. So thank you to those of you that have filled it out, and if you haven't yet, please do, and that'll help them guide them on how to help us going forward. So thank you so much, Dr. Fayon.
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
thank you.
it. So a couple last things before we wind up. There's a weird plate at your table, and that was not supplied by John S. Knight Center. That was supplied by me. There's a carrot, there's an egg, and there's some coffee beans. And it's interesting because this actually came from another book of John Gordon's that I read. And what it does is it reflects one of the core aspects of our culture. And that is that leadership, and Julie said it multiple times, leadership is influence. It is not a title. There's no title in community healthcare that makes you a leader. The fact that you're here makes you a leader. And so what I'd like to do, if you read this book, The Coffee Bean, it's really short, but it's really powerful. And the analogy is this. Like Julie said, our life is full of challenge. We are always surrounded by heat and pressure. And if you're in a boiling pot, how are you going to respond to the pressure and the heat and the challenges and the stress of your life? And that's where we have the choice, right? Your perspective. And what the three things on those plates represent is the perspective that you take towards the boiling water in your life. When a carrot gets boiled, what happens to it? It gets soft. It softens, it gets weak. It is destroyed. It is affected by its environment. So that's one thing we can do. We can shrink, we can soften, and we can be diminished by our environment. What does an egg do? It gets hard. It gets hardened. It's trying to protect itself from injury. Its soft core is changed forever. It can never go back to what it was at the beginning. It's hardened. So again, what's the effect? Both the carrot and the egg were changed by the water around it. What does a coffee bean do in boiling water? It is the only thing of the three that changes the water. It is not changed by the pressure and the heat. That's when it performs its best and creates something better. So the question for you is, when we are in our life, when we're in a hard day, when it's hard to be positive, when you're at a deficit, are you going to be a carrot, an egg, or a coffee bean? And in the book, the main character of the book actually has a little coffee bean that he keeps in his pocket to remind him of that. And so if you want to grab one of the ones at your table, feel free to before you leave. So I wanted to leave you with that. There are a couple other things I would like to do before we adjourn today. One of which is I would just, going back through the mission of our company and how we started and why we're here, and one of Julie's slides says, positive leaders leave a legacy. And I'm just so proud and blessed to be around and to have been mentored by and friends with Dr. Eisen. And I think all of us here can, if you've known him, you feel the same way. And so basically today, going through the legacy of what he started from one person with one team in one place to this, I would like to have him come up. I told him, I asked him if he could speak, and he said, what do you want me to say? And I said, I'm giving you no directions. I have given him no script. I haven't asked him to speak about anything. I just wanted Dr. Eisen to come up and address you all from the heart and give you guys a reaction from today as well. So, Dr. Eisen.
Is this live? Can you hear me? Before we start on this, Brady mentioned earlier a little bit about teams. And nationally, you are recognized as a leader in that care. The real concern and the real point I want you to think about as you leave here, teams aren't easy. Why are teams not easy? Teams mean I don't control it anymore. I don't handle it all anymore. I have to trust, and depend on other people. If we're going to succeed, we have to keep teams. We have to trust each other. We have to depend on each other. We have to help each other grow. As far as culture, I was in Massillon yesterday seeing patients. I have not seen patients in an office for probably 15 years. So you can imagine I was a little stressed. And being Massillon, they made sure I had a full schedule. So thank you, Cheryl, for drawing the short straw and being the nurse who had to help me get through the day. But more importantly, I had a patient with pneumonia, big pneumonia, on x-ray. And I was walking her to the front because she wasn't that stable. And don't ask me why, but Massillon has a table close to the checkout. And she got dizzy and lightheaded, and I had to set her down on it. And here I am, a place I'm not familiar, haven't been for a long time. You know what happened? Another provider came over and said, can I help? Got a wheelchair. So kind to this lady, so compassionate to her. Took her to the car so they could take her to the hospital. That's culture print. Thank you. That's why we're special. That's why we're the best. I want you to imagine a 96-year-old, bedridden, at home, short of breath, can't breathe, nervous, scared, doesn't know what to do. One of a couple things could happen. 911, ambulance, flashing lights, in his house, taken out of his house, taken to the ER, IVs, potentially intubated, potentially in an ICU. Not getting what he wanted. Or someone could come to his house at 5:30 on Friday night, stand beside him, listen to his lungs, calm him down, give him some medication, and let him stay where he wanted to be. Now, the part you're going to think is, I'm talking about the physician being the important part. I'm not. I went to the house, I said to him, but that wasn't my doing. Daughter called in. A young lady who hasn't been with me but a few months came back, and instead of being afraid, instead of sending them to the ER, instead of saying, this is Friday afternoon and I want to go home, said, I've got this patient. What do we do? I said, well, ask him what he wants. He said, I want the doctor to come see me. I didn't offer. I didn't volunteer. But Sarah came to me with that smile and that compassion and that caring. And I was ashamed not to go. I mean, there was no way I could not do that at that point. Now, Sarah's only been with us a few months, but she's got the culture. The point being, there is no culture without each of you. You don't have to be here 20 years to have it. You don't have to be here more today. You are the culture. You will always be the culture. You are what makes it special. You are the key. Be extremely, extremely proud of yourselves. Probably can never be as proud as I am, okay? But be extremely proud of yourselves. Be so happy. I am just so blessed to get to work with this group of people, to see you follow the culture, to see you put the patient first, to see you not say go to the ER, to see you take them out in a wheelchair and do it with a smile. And that's just last couple weeks. I could tell you stories for hours and hours, but I'm sure somebody wants to go home at some point. So before I give the mic back, would you let me, and would you give yourselves a big round of applause?
Thank you so much. Whew. All right. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I want to finish up. I wanted that to be one of the highlights at the end. I was thinking about doing a table discussion, but we've done several of those. So I think just for yourself, you know, Julie's point of what are you going to do after today? Was there something that someone said up here that really spoke to you? That you said, wow, like that's something that I could potentially do to help my family, my team, myself. You know, we call those, what are the takeaways? What am I going to do differently? Sometimes I think, and I learned this from Dan Huckins, the other one that I love, though, is on the other side of that, what's the leave behind? What is something you brought here in yourself today that you heard, and then you heard something, and you're going to leave something negative or toxic or not useful to you, you're going to leave it behind. You're going to leave it here. Is it negative self-talk to yourself? I'm kind of blown away that I had as much trouble with 3 words as I did. Is it negative self-talk? It's so easy to do. Is it gratitude? Is it that I'm not grateful? Are you one of the energy vampires? Data shows that there's got to be at least 1 or 2 of us in here. And are you that vampire sometimes when you've had a bad day? Louisville last month, I had a rough time. I was a vampire for a week or so. Are we going to leave that behind? What are you going to leave behind today? So if you could think about that for yourself, that's what the power of this meeting is. It's not today. It's for the next year. Just like last year, 200-some people got great palliative care and are living and progressing toward the end of their life the way that they want. So what's going to come out of this year? Next year, can we stand up here and say, can I throw the mic out there and have 20 people lined up running to the mic to say, these are the cool things that happened this year because of something that I learned at last year's meeting. That's the value of today. We have a couple giveaways to have some fun here at the end. You always have to end on a high. Give away free stuff. That's the best way to do it. So we realize that in our mission, certain types of visits are extremely important. I think we all know, we've been doing it for years, the Medicare wellness visit is extremely important to our patients. We have a lot of time that goes into prepping for those, making sure our patients get their preventative care, their cancer screenings, their med refills, their advanced directives, referrals to the correct providers. There's a lot of ways that the MAWV visit is one of the best things we do for our mission. And we actually have when you talk about the fruit, we met some of our metrics on MAWV completion, and we were able to collect an incentive on that. And so after today's meeting, we have a $300 bonus to give everyone for their work in MAWVs. So we thank you. A lot of work goes into that visit, and our patients get a lot of value in it. Okay. The next giveaway we have is we have extra Yeti cups. Our Yetis from the other year or two ago were a huge hit. We have oh, you have one, Kathy? We have some up here, and we needed to give them away. So if you have a yellow dot on the back of your name tag, at the end, come get your Yeti. Anybody got it? Hey, all right. Woohoo. All right. Another thing, I was notified the other day that October is Therapy Appreciation Month. I don't know who embodies our mission more than physical, occupational, and speech therapy. There are so many, that's one of the other cool things when I go to national events, when Dr. Eisen and I are asked, who's all on your teams? Like we keep hearing about this crazy team care at Community Healthcare in Ohio. Like, what the heck is that? I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, we got all the therapies too. And they're like, huh? What? Nobody else does that. But it fits our mission. Our patients get to stay in our walls. They get amazingly compassionate care. We have people that Brendan and his team and Brittany and their team can probably give us stories for hours on the lives that they've changed. Our speech therapists work with my own kids, have made amazing progress. So this month, if you give them a shout out or appreciate our therapy team, I really want to throw that out there because they do a great job. Last but not least, yes, thank you for therapy. Last but not least, we've been talking about this beautiful facility that we outgrew the old one a few years ago, and we've been here for a few years. I really want to thank the team here at John S. Knight, so if we could give them a round of applause. They put on an amazing event. They even have our logo up top, if you haven't seen it. See it up there? And color coordinated with our logos. It's awesome. That being said, we also now have outgrown the place where we used to have our annual corporate Christmas party. So this year on the 16th, it'll be here. So we'd love to have you come to our corporate Christmas party. Keep that on your calendar. And then the last thing I'd like to do is to thank everybody who made this meeting possible. This meeting takes a lot of work to put together, and there's a lot of effort that goes into this. I'd like to recognize a few of the people by name that work really hard for this. Jen Maley, April Chumita, our CFO, the person in charge of the beautiful gift bags, Michelle Mollendick. Probably the newest employee of the entire company, Carol, joined us a week ago, and she has the horrible position of working with me. And unfortunately, your whole first week was spent getting me ready for today, and you did a great job, so thank you, Carol. And then there was several of you, and I didn't have everybody's name, but there were multiple district managers and other folks that came early this morning who've been here since 9 o'clock getting ready for this today. I broke an egg, so sorry that your table doesn't have an egg. I dropped it at 9:30. It was too much coffee, sorry. But I want to thank everyone that came and made this possible. And with that, I have nothing else, and I want to thank you all for this day. It's an amazing day. You are free to go, mill around, stay, whatever you want. Thank you much.